to the Wake Up Show. My name is King Slodum and I hope you're doing great. I hope you're doing fantastic. So today we're just going to continue from where we left off last week. Where would you rather live? Let's get right into it. Okay, so last week we looked at how the Judeo-Christian value system is a much better system for organizing and building a society compared to the Darwinian value system, if you like. And we mainly focus on the issue of morality and the idea that the Christian worldview has an authoritative source of reference for its moral principles, basically. Whereas the atheistic worldview or the Darwinian approach or value system does not have a solid source of reference for its moral principles, if they have any. Okay, so we see that problem with that worldview, the atheistic worldview, and when we leave that gap open, when we leave that possibility that anyone can determine what is good and evil, what is good for everyone or what is bad for everyone, I didn't mention this last week, but then we run into the trouble of letting someone step in or a group of people step in and dictating for all of us what is good and bad. Okay, and so by this I am specifically referring to authoritarian regimes that has risen up throughout history. We're talking about people like Adolf Hitler, talking about people like Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot. These guys basically rose to power and effectively declared themselves as gods. And if you disagreed with them, you're either tortured, sent to prison, or killed. And if you happen to be, for example, a Jew, in the case of the Nazis, you were killed just because you happen to be a Jew. And we see how that can be problematic, to say the very least. And the fact that it opens the door for chaos and mayhem and a lot of distraction. And obviously, when I say this, I do not mean that all atheists are taking time bombs. That's not what I mean. I mean that if we want to prevent people like Adolf Hitler, people like Stalin, people like Pol Pot, and all these evil maniacs from getting into power and doing what they want, we would rather be better off with a Christian value system where we know that this is evil, that is good, and therefore let us strive as a society to get to this standard. Or else, if we open up our society to the idea that everything is relative, okay, and we see that today, a lot today, especially in the West, the idea that, you can do what you want, it's not like everything is clear cut or that do what you want and believe what you want. It is your life, your choice, basically. And that idea is very dangerous. And right now, people are a bit lax about it, especially Christians, because we haven't really seen anything crazy come out of it yet. But then and it doesn't take a lot for things to get out of hand. When you have people who are really crazy and out of their mind get into power, they can take advantage of the fact that everyone is laser fair about what is objectively true, objective reality. And so they take advantage of that fact and do whatever they want to do. Okay. We pray that doesn't happen, although increasingly we are seeing these people in leadership with a very tyrannical approach to doing things, and they pretend to be doing things for the good of everyone. Okay, these days we were told that you have to do this because it is good for everyone. The scientists say so, the experts say so. Therefore, if you even think of disagreeing whatsoever, you are castigated or ostracized from society, and no one wants to talk to you. You become unpopular. No one wants to even associate themselves with you. And it is because we're giving way for these people to, basically tell us what to do. Although there is a possibility that there might be an alternative explanation. Now you can take that and apply it to a lot of things which is happening today. Okay, I'll leave that to you because you're not going to do that today, maybe some other time. Okay, so I probably have talked a lot about what we discussed last week, but then this week we're going to look at how Christianity is better than other religious value systems. Example like Islam, and I use Islam because Christianity and Islam are basically the two most popular religions in the world. So we have that. And we need to realize is that there are a lot of fundamental differences when it comes to Christianity and other world religions. We can talk about the most prominent one is the identity and the identity and deity of Jesus Christ. It varies wherever you go, and for Christianity, we do not compromise on the deity and identity of Jesus Christ and His mission on earth. That we don't compromise on. And there are a lot of other fundamental differences which we're not going to go into today. But then I'm not necessarily going to focus on all these differences. I just want to pinpoint on the idea of freedom and liberties. The fact that Christianity makes that possible compared to other religions. Now, the idea of freedom is most of the times underestimated in the West. We take freedoms for granted. We take liberties for granted. Why? Because we haven't seen, for the most part, what could go wrong if we lose these liberties and freedoms. And yes, if you want to go by the more Darwinian approach where everything goes, you're welcome to do that. But then you should remember that you're opening yourself up to something more chaotic in the long run. But then when it comes to freedom and Christianity, there is a security about it. Now, when you look at other religions like Islam, okay, there is not a lot of freedom when it comes to Islamic countries. I mean, I think it's a well-known fact, where Sharia law is effectively the rule of law. There's not a lot of freedoms. There is a lot of trampling upon on personal freedoms, and we need to understand that we need to be free in order to live in a civil society. There are many reasons why we need to be free, and we don't need someone telling us what to do. Number one, the idea that we need to tolerate each other. Okay, in order to tolerate each other, we need a society which provides personal freedoms. Okay, that's why you see that in mostly Christian countries, it's not just Christians for the most part. It is Christians and people of many other religions. Okay, Christians and many other religions, Islam, Hindu, Buddhism, and all these other religions. Okay, because Christians are more tolerable of other people practicing their faith. We basically say, okay, we disagree with you, but then we're still gonna love you. We love you enough for you to be around us. We love you enough to feed you when you're hungry. We love you enough to give you water when you're thirsty. We are not going to persecute you, unlike other religions where you disagree with them, or you do not want to pledge your allegiance to their God. You stand the chance of losing your life. For Christians, we're like, okay, we disagree, but you are God's creature, and you deserve to be treated with dignity and with respect. And we recognize that. Another reason why we need freedom is the fact that we need more innovation. We need freedom enables more innovation. Again, if we look at many Western countries in the world, you see a lot of technological advancements, you see a lot of innovations, things are so much better. And that is because people are allowed to to express themselves. People are allowed to pursue their passions. People are allowed to feel free and do whatever they want because the system allows it. You are free to pursue your desires, your goals, your ambitions. Okay, we need freedom for that, or else life is going to be difficult for the most part. Okay, life is going to, and we see in the West how science has thrived in the West, and a lot of people think Christianity and science are sort of opposed. They're not. They're not. Christianity and science are not conflicting, uh, 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 um, you know, fields. They work hand in hand. The thing is, science explains why there is something, and then Christianity basically tells us where that thing came from and the meaning, the deeper meaning behind that thing. But then most of the times, people think because we can explain something, that means we don't necessarily need God um, in our lives, and I think that is that is not true. Okay, to put it mildly, that is not true. And so we need that. We need that innovation, and also in countries where in countries built upon Judeo-Christian values tend to be economically sound. Okay, there is a lot of economic prosperity. People are allowed to open their own businesses. People are allowed to basically own their own land. The idea of free markets. Now, I know a lot of people have a lot of questions, and most people even disagree with the idea of free markets allowing people to do whatever they want. But I think free mar- re- free market is great. Okay, now obviously when it comes to freedom, okay, anything that human beings are involved in gets corrupted at some point. Okay, so the idea that human beings are in charge, the idea that human beings are running the system, means that there's going to be corruption, whether we like it or not. And we have to realize that we we always have this utopic ideas, and we're like, oh, if only we could do this, or if only everyone could be rich, or everyone could be treated fairly, and all these things. Well, those are great, but the thing is, we are human beings, and nothing is going to be perfect when human beings are involved. We can strive to do our best, but it's not going to be perfect. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so we have that as well. So we need freedom in order to tolerate each other. Because, for example, in most Islamic countries, if you are a Christian, you're not allowed to practice your religion there. You're probably going to get yourself into trouble if you're holding a Bible or reading a Bible, and stuff like that. You are not allowed. But in Christian countries, you come, you build your mosque, you read your Quran, you know, do your thing. Okay, do your thing basically. And I believe that stems from a lot of biblical. It has a lot of biblical sort of backing. The idea that I disagree with you, but then I love you and I'm going to live with you, and I'm going to be the light that shines wherever I go. And if you happen to, find that light and then come to Christ, that is great. But then if not, you are welcome to practice what you believe in as well. And we have that idea of choice. Okay. And I think even God tells us, for example, in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 15, the idea that God has placed before us life and death, curses and blessings. And God actually admonishes us to choose good, to choose life. And sometimes we don't. Okay, so God gives us that freedom, and that comes from that sort of Judeo-Christian background. Okay, and if you've read the Sermon on the Mount, like in Matthew chapter 5, when you look at from verse 43, and Jesus talked about how, before the people were told that you should love effectively your friends or those who love you and hate your enemies. And Jesus said, actually love those who hate you, because what good does it make? Tax collectors. You use the example of tax collectors, and tax collectors were deemed to be the bad guys of that day. So you're like, tax collectors love tax collectors, or they love their families, and so you're no different if you love only those who love you. So you should love your enemies, okay? Those who disagree with you, those who probably want to get rid of you. And so we have those of biblical principles that allow mostly Christian countries, or at least Christian countries found on Judeo-Christian principles, to open up to people of different religions and say, okay, you're welcome to come and enjoy our prosperity. We're going to share our gospel with you. We're going to carry our gospel around the world. But then you make that ultimate choice whether to accept Christ or not. Whereas when we look at other religions, the idea of even leaving that religion is a problem. Okay. And so we need to be very careful. And when it comes to trying to, or when it comes to building a society or a civilization that works for everyone. Okay. A civilization that works for everyone. So I just want to say, to end this, that in order for a society to function and in order for a society to thrive, you need the perfect balance between morality, or an authoritative source of morality, and freedom for people to operate within those moral boundaries. So because the thing is, the moral principles contain our freedoms. Okay, they prevent us from going crazy. They prevent any tyrannical person from rising and say, I know better than God. And I believe Christianity does it best compared to other world religions. Okay. And, atheism, that there is no God. And so that will be all for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. I just want to take a short moment and just give a big shout out to my cousin, Godfred Jr. I call him Jr. He was responsible for putting together my intro and my logo and, that little intro before I get into the topic to start talking about, the issues of the day. So I will be linking his socials and his email. If you want to get in touch with him, you can get in touch with him and then just let him know that, I sent you. And by the way, this is not a paid promo. I'm just giving a shout out. So yeah, thank you very much for tuning in today. And listen, 2021 is a time you need to wake up. You have to wake up. The time is going. Like, there's a lot of things happening, and I would encourage you to be very sensitive to what is going on right now, with the pandemic and all the crazy stuff. And do not believe anything you're told unless you have confirmed it yourself. Okay, so I'm gonna leave you with that. So remember, wake up. The time is now. Godspeed.